Welcome to The Corner. I'm your host, Yvonne Kadzo. You know, drug addiction is a term that most of us have heard of it. And it's like rain. It doesn't choose who it rains on. And on today's episode, we are discussing drug addiction and the healing journey. And before we get into the discussion, we went to the streets and asked a few Kenyans what they think or if they know someone who's battling with drugs addiction. This is what they had to say.
Personally, I know someone who's struggling with alcohol addiction. Yeah, it's a family member, and it's taken a toll on all of us. Yeah, not just emotionally, physically, even, you know, when he gets sick. Yeah, they do. Many people don't take time to understand why someone got to that level, because they always say you don't just wake up and become an addict. Yeah,
I know a number of people who are addicted. Yes, to alcohol. The problem with especially the youths, they don't have what to do, so they bury themselves in alcohol mostly.
Mimi nikienda ushago, mimi naonanga watu wakiwa ni kama ako addicted, lakini si wengi, lakini naonanga ni kama. So siwezi kuambia sababu sijaithibitisha, lakini naonanga ni kama huyu alikuwa mtu mzuri, lakini kiangalia ni kama kichwa iliruka. Kitu kama hiyo. So mimi naamini ziko, lakini siwezi thibitisha nikakwambia ndio huyu. Tuseme ni brother yangu ako addicted. Siwezi mtenga, surely. Hata kama amekuwa mwenda wazimu, nitamchukua kama brother na sister. So siwezi sema ati huyu amekuwa mchafu nini ati nimtenge mbali na mimi. Hiyo nao ni ngumu.
I have some friends, but wakati tunajaribu kubonga nao, what I can tell you, kuna some wanajudge harshly.
There are so many of them. Shida ni kutokuwa na kazi, stresses ya maisha ya kutopata chakula, pengine malazi mbaya ama poor housing.
Ni wengi sana hata mpaka wauzaji.
Yeah, I know several people who are addicted to drugs. Yeah, the society is the one pushing them to do such a thing, because maybe they are comparing them with such people, so you know, they just have drugs as their option.
Well, apparently, out of 10, 8 people know people who are addicted to drugs or they have members in their family who are battling this fight. And remember, you can join in this conversation via our SMS line, that is 2316, or WhatsApp on 0786-316-316. For those watching us on YouTube, karibuni sana. And I'm not alone in studio today. I have beautiful people here with me. Asanteni sana kwa kuja. You're most welcome. We have Mary Ngendo here, who is a psychologist. Yeah, we have Noel Hope, who is in recovery also, and we also have Graham Maringi, right? Did I pronounce that right? Karingi. Yes, Graham Karingi. Asanteni sana kwa kuja. Karibuni. Now, if we just get into the conversation, you guys are in recovery. Maybe you can share for how long you've been in recovery?
8 years, 7 months sober.
Wow, that's nice. Graham?
2 years, 8 months clean.
Wow, that's good. If I may ask, maybe what was your choice of drug?
I'm an alcoholic, in recovery.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm an alcoholic in recovery.
If I can come back to Nawal, you said 8 years ago. How did it start for you?
The drinking?
Yes.
I started in very young, actually, when I was 13, 14.
Wow.
Yeah. Right after I'd cleared my class 8.
Was it like maybe influence, like people, your friends, or was it just testing and then whoops,
No,
you're in?
actually it came about by environment, and I really wanted to fit in.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got an older boyfriend, so I made a choice to be a part of that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So to fit in with the boyfriend.
And
What about you, Graham?
Mine was actually experimental.
Okay.
But experimental and influence. Because the first time I had my first drink was after my Form 4. And my best friend at that time is the one who he's the one who basically introduced me to it. So, yeah.
It was experimenting, yeah. Oh, yeah. Ngendo, if I may ask, what are some of the triggers? Because we see nowadays, especially in today's generation, so many people think like maybe drinking, using drugs is a common thing. It's a way of life and all that. What are some of the triggers that, lead this generation to such kind of choices?
I think some of them are, like has been said, experimentation. Just want to see what is this about. The other one could be modeling. If people have grown up in a home where they've seen the people around them using the drug or the alcohol, and so they just pick it up because it seems to be a natural thing. Again, the alcohol is easily available at home, so something that they can easily pick up on. There are other people who it's trauma, whether it's parental separation or abuse that they've grown up in, and so they start looking for a way to heal themselves. It's a coping mechanism. And it could also be mental illness, things like depression, things like borderline schizophrenia. So some people would say that the drug calms their thoughts. And so now that way it becomes a regular thing. Others could be even musicians, all the songs that people listen to, and drugs are praised, and so they wonder what is this these people are talking about. So initially you may find it has a pseudonym, and then the young people are able to identify what the pseudonym means, and then now they go and find what is this thing that is being talked about. Things like ganja and things like that. Like there's some people who will hear ganja and they won't recognize, but there's some age groups that they will wonder what is this person the person is talking about, and go and find out and then start using it. So there are various reasons that lead people to actually use. Also just being idle, being bored. Some people start as socializing, so we would go maybe after work or during the holidays as a way of bonding. I think that's a common thing also culturally. Maybe after the main event or after the food, alcohol is presented. So it can pick up and become a trend. So I think there are many things. Also that emptiness, and people just feel empty on the inside. They're not able to reach out and ask for help, and so the self-medication again comes in. So people think that maybe by drinking or using substances they can be able to cope with that situation. And unfortunately, it's in lack of foresight also. They can't see ahead that not everybody is going to handle it very well, which is difficult to tell. Sometimes also genetics play a part, that if it's already in the family, it becomes easier for the child or another relative to become addicted to the substance.
Nawal, you did this so that you can fit into Bay's bracket. Did you eventually fit in?
Actually, it gets difficult because there's always something else to try. And you have to keep pushing your limits higher and higher and higher. Because now I know it's so hard to please anyone. But back in the day, you're still young, you don't know where you're supposed to be, you don't know what life is supposed to be all about. And the first people you land onto, this is what they do, and you feel, oh, this is where the love is.
And at what point did it reach until you were like, hey, it's now not, this is an addiction or something? Or how did you realize?
It took a very long time because I drank for 16 years. And the only time I got to realize that this is not normal was like a year before I checked into rehab, because I felt so alone. Everything had left. Even the ones that I tried to fit into had left. And the way of life and what they were doing, I didn't agree anymore, because it stopped making sense. Now it became a problem. And I sank deeper and deeper. I couldn't call anyone. I'd spoiled all my relationships, my family, everyone. And I kept moving from place to place, so that whenever I go to a new place, I'm now new. So I'm a champ of that place for the time. Then after a while, then I move again. If guys get to know me, and because I think I was also running away from the fact that this is my reality and this is how bad it is. Because every time I kept meeting new people, it felt like, nobody knows me. So I can hide in it for a few months and move again and stuff like that.
For Graham, you are experimenting. Experiment, I believe it's once and then tunamaliza hii story. Or how did it now, at what point did you realize that this thing is now becoming not normal?
So the first time I took it, to be honest, it was the worst taste I ever had. So after that first time, I stayed clean. I mean, I didn't touch alcohol, I think, until a year and a half later, when now I was doing my A-level in Peponi. Now again, another friend of mine, who was also a good friend, is the one I remember went for a house party. And he was on my case. He was like, no, you have to try this. I kid you not, it won't be the same. So I was like, okay, fine. You know what, just to get you off me, fine.
Work,
So that's when I even knew about now chasing. because he put ginger ale and vodka.
Okay.
And I won't lie to you, that's when I loved the taste of alcohol. So now that started becoming now, because of now when I fell in love with that taste, that's when now my drinking now, that's when it started. Yeah.
And now, at what point did you realize, like, this is now not normal?
Well, I did. Now, for me, mine, you know, everyone's journey with addiction and alcoholism is very different.
True.
To be honest, for me, mine has been very rough. Mine was not a smooth one. Because I've experienced, I mean, I've gotten into very severe accidents. I've tried taking my own life 3 times. I have, like, it's been a roller coaster of things. Yeah. Now, the funniest thing, what made me make the decision to say that this is it, is when I was now at a halfway house. And I came in and I blacked out and I pissed myself. Not, mark my words, not that has never happened before. It's happened enough times. But that, I don't know, I really can't tell you why. But that really shook me, and that was now where I made the decision, like, you know what? I know this can't be my life.
For Nawal, do you think, or did you feel like maybe the society judge people who maybe are addicted to drugs or any other choice of drug differently?
Yeah.
How so?
Actually, I stopped being a normal member of that society because my name changed. I had to be Nawal alcoholic, Nawal Mlevi, you know. So anytime anything is being addressed in society, there's nowhere it fit. And the unfortunate thing about it, it also takes into family. Because now my mom stopped being Mama, this daughter, it's now Mama Mlevi, you know. And I didn't care much because I still kept on drinking. But thinking about it, the people who were closest to me suffered it more. Yeah, so, and okay, maybe until you get sober.
Yeah, it's when you realize.
Yeah.
Graham, did you feel like the society is judging you?
Of course it did. And I couldn't blame it, to be honest. Because my actions also, I mean, as just Nawal has said, you know, people will just judge you based on what you present.
Yes.
So, for me, as I told you, I mean, I had all kinds of names. Muizi, I was a thief, a very good one. I was, very violent. I was, so any name you can think of.
Yeah, any bad name that is.
Yes, I was it. So definitely society does judge.
Yeah.
And they're not very, what I learned, it's not kind. Society out there, the world is rough.
It's not a joke.
No.
Nyendo, how does, being in the profession that you're in, you've been dealing with so many people in terms of drugs. How do you think the society, sees these people? Or actually, they are people just like any other person. But the thing is, they are kind of being looked at differently. How is that?
Eden Village is where I work, and sometimes people come in and they ask me, wako wapi walevi? You see how handsome Graham is and how beautiful Nawal is.
I know, right?
So they're walking in, they're looking for people staggering or drugged, so they look at them as people who should maybe not okay, maybe have a mental illness, they're expecting something so different, rough, rugged. So they look at them in that way. And then the unfortunate thing, these are the most brilliant people probably I've ever met. Very intelligent, above average in IQ. So society needs to understand what addiction is and understand that it's a disease that actually is manageable through treatment in a rehabilitation facility. And when they get well, you can see the people that we have who are active in society, who you can't even tell. But if they're not given the chance for recovery, then the deterioration continues. And unfortunately, even death is one of the consequences. But they can be salvaged. That's what I can say.
Well, we are taking a short break, but we will be right back. Keep it Family TV.
Tomorrow on She.
I was told there's a wedding coming up in a month's time. And then the team leader of the photographers is like, some of my photographers don't have passport.
I did an installation and everything fell. Already I was fighting imposter syndrome, that I am not good in my job. So this has just confirmed.
You have to sort it out. Okay. So you look within, gather up your courage, and do something about it.
We are talking about women in service-oriented industries.
It's tomorrow at 8:30 p.m.
Welcome back to The Corner. And on today's episode, we are discussing drug addiction and recovery process. Now, remember, you can also join in the conversation via our SMS line that is 2316 or WhatsApp on 0786 316 316. For those watching us on YouTube, karibuni sana, feel free to engage with us. Now, before we went on a break, we were talking about how society views people who are struggling with drugs and all that. If I can start with Nawal. What was maybe your hardest point during that time before now you checked yourself into a rehab?
Wow, that's a hard question.
I know.
Because that's the only part in your life where you feel everything is just gone. It's painful. You cry even when nobody is asking you a question. You're just crying with yourself. Because the things you've done, you can't even live with them you can't live with most of them. So my hardest time, I'd say, is when I realized I don't have anything else left. Yeah, and I kept asking God, where's my purpose? And if I have no purpose, I'd best die. Yeah, and when it gets to that kind of hopelessness of it's better I die other than stay and watch all this continue. And I didn't have a proper understanding of it's a disease. I just thought my drinking has gone overboard. Yeah.
Graham, for you, what maybe would be your hardest part in that journey?
I think is when I was in rehab and my mother came over with Ngendo and she finally told me that, you know what, I have washed my hands of you. That if this is the life you've decided to live, to be honest, I am at peace with whatever that is going to come. Then my sister came and she told me the next best thing she'll ever do for me is to carry my coffin. And I didn't see them, I think, for 6 months. And I could not blame them. To be honest, I had taken them through a roller coaster of so many things. In as much as I'd always tell them, you know what, I do agree that, now I'm alone, it's fine.
Yeah.
It was also a very scary place to be in. I think also what I could relate with is what Nawal was saying, that emptiness. Now at least Nawal had the option of death. Death refused me enough times. Like even death itself refused to die. So for me, to be honest, the only other option I had was now, okay, let's now work on recovery.
Yes.
Yeah.
Being sober was the only option.
Being sober was the only option.
Yeah. Ngendo, you see, most people sometimes get into drugs and getting addicted in a way of wanting to fill in an emptiness. Because more people would be like, they are missing something, they are looking for something to fill that gap. But then, from our that's not the case, because still, if you're still using it, bado kuna that emptiness that you're feeling. Now, for a young person out there who's maybe struggling with drugs and addiction, what can you tell him or her?
Okay, I think what I can say is that there is still hope. They can still get the help that they need. I feel like young people, the challenge they have is they don't feel like they can trust anyone to talk about how they truly feel.
Yeah.
But sad thing is that there's always someone somewhere, whether it's a family member, a friend, a teacher, a counselor, there's always somebody somewhere who they can just reach out to and be able to tell them exactly how they feel. And then they can get the help that they need. Now with young people, you'll be surprised, not everybody has reached the stage of addiction.
Yeah.
They could even be just regular use, routine use. So they can be able to get the help they need to reduce that to a point where maybe they can stop completely. Now, if the assessment or the screening is done and they are found to be in addiction already, then they can get the help from rehab so that they can be able to stop completely and now be able to come back to functionality. Because if they don't get the help they need at that point in time, it gets worse and the consequences get worse to a point where even maybe health, and also any opportunities that they could have. So there are some who even, they started at 18, 19, and the time they're getting help is 30. You can imagine how many years have gone. And so it's just about lowering the pride, stopping to try to fit in, understanding that everyone has their journey. This is my journey. I am in a mess. I need help. That is the first step, I would say. They just need to get to a point of acceptance. It's not about the friends. It's not about showing off. In good time. Yeah, in good time.
Nawal, how did the alcohol addiction affect your relationship with your family or even your love life? Because I'm assuming you must have had a love life.
It wasn't actually love. It was just convenience. Like if
convenience.
I think so, yeah. Because you can't hold anything together. There was no way, and I didn't want anyone who'd ask me more questions. Like I'm already being asked these questions at home. So if I'm going to commit to something, that means something will be taken away from me. And I protected my drinking. So I didn't care how many people I had to lose along the way, as long as my drinking wasn't affected. Because it became important. What time do I wake up? What time do I go? As I wake up, I need to find my booze there. Like, I wouldn't say I had anything serious. Yeah, but with my family, I was an unmember, for lack of a better word.
Ngendo, does addiction affect an individual's self-esteem or self-worth?
Completely.
How is that?
Because it's practically impossible for someone to be an addict and they are functioning normally in society. So you can imagine even the issues of distrust, the issues of relationships not working out that Graham and Nawal have mentioned. We are talking about failure in school, non-performance at work, loss of motivation. People even get to not being hygienic, you know, even a simple thing as a shower. Families don't accommodate the person anymore. So there's always that feeling that they can feel it. Maybe they don't say it, the pride might be too high for them to admit, but they're not okay. They can tell people are isolating. And the only people they can relate with are the people who are using with them. Remember I told you about the preoccupation?
Yeah.
So if you find people who are even raised in very good standards of life, going even to very low standards of life, and the friends that they relate with, family doesn't even want to see them because they're troubled. How are we gone to that level? So one of the major things that we have to work on is when they come to Eden Village is now helping them to start accepting themselves, accepting that how far down they've gone, and then start now believing in themselves, seeing the positivity, seeing the good that they have. So yes, even family will have to tell them at the beginning how bad things were, but as we go along, when you deal with the past, then now people can start seeing the potential that they have. The challenges that they faced have made them stronger now. That is no longer a death sentence that I'm an addict or an alcoholic. It's probably a relief for me to know that there's one thing in this world that I cannot use, and that's the one thing that has made me go down. Now is to pick this sober life, start building myself up again. All of them have something, be it a talent, be it the intellect, there's something. Now that's what we start focusing on, so that even by the time they leave, for example, like in aftercare, when they go to the halfway house, Eden, they now start having structure, you know, going back to normal life, being included in the family. Yes, trust will take time. Even bonding again, getting new friends will take time, but one day at a time, they start rebuilding the self-esteem.
Let me get to Graham. Graham, now there was a Graham who used to drink. During that time, how can you describe the two? The one who is drunk and the one who is not drunk. Not now, your time, before you take anything. Before you drink, that is. Like who
was the alcoholic Graham?
Yes.
Or the active alcoholic?
Yes.
And
the other Graham?
Back then?
Yes, back then.
Okay. The active alcoholic, I was very violent. I was very rude. I was a thief. I was, let's just say I was a very rough individual. Then, back then, I was very focused. I played rugby professionally. I was an achiever, to be honest. And I was raised up in a very disciplined family. Don't get me wrong, because you know, at times people think, and also my mother has been chastised for that, you know, criticized, saying that this is your fault. You didn't know how to discipline your children. Let me tell you, my father and mother, my God, they were disciplinarians. So this had nothing at all
to
do with them. In terms of raising my sister and I, they did their job. They did what they were supposed to do as parents. This is all on me. So definitely, if you're to ask me the active alcoholic, and that we're very two different people. Let me tell you, the minute I pick up a drink as Graham, this is my script. A fight, police, if I have a car, there's an accident, and I'll finally end up in a cell or jail. That is my script the minute I pick up that drink. And all of us, as addicts and alcoholics, each have their own specific script, and we all know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ngendo, how has the society, for example, even the kind of music being released out there, some music are praising alcohol and saying how good that thing is. What impact does it have on individuals?
I feel it's more the fact that it's a theme being repeated. Maybe be it about drugs. Every function, maybe there's alcohol. The glorifying of that lifestyle, that you can only have fun when you're drinking. Unfortunately, even as people grow older, they start to think that probably you can only find business in bars or places where the drinking is there.
Very true.
So it sort of normalizes the using. So the honest truth is that, unfortunately, not everybody will get into addiction. But now that minority that gets into addiction are the ones now who suffer the consequences. And now to get that person out of that mentality and even now triggers being music, now letting go of the bars, letting go of football in the bars, you know, it takes a lot now. That is the work that we do now.
For Nawal, as we wind up, what message can you have to a young lady out there who's probably struggling with drug addiction, if it's alcohol or any other choice of drug?
Don't be silent and don't shy off from getting the help that you need. Like Ngendo shared earlier, there's always that one person who will listen. There's a lot of rehabilitation centers around. There's help. There's a channel to which anyone can get help. And it's never all lost. Yeah, there's always a way out. And for some of us who've been able to get out of it, we can testify that it's better to be on this side than on that side where there's so much torment and, you know.
Graham, what advice would you give to a young person out there who's struggling?
As long as you're alive, there's always a chance. As long as you're alive, your story is not yet over.
Yeah.
It might feel like it when you're in active use, but there's always a chance. And again, as Ngendo has said, there's always someone you can talk to. So don't give up on yourself.
Ngendo, last word to someone there who's struggling with addiction, and what are the first steps he or she should take?
Okay. So I feel like people who are struggling with addiction, the most important thing is to first acknowledge that there is a problem. And the way to tell the problem, first of all, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people have mentioned it to you. Something is wrong with the way you're drinking, or mentioned a sign or a consequence that is there. Second of all is just honestly putting the ego aside, putting the pride. It's difficult to accept this small thing. You know, you just look at the drug, look at the alcohol, the bottle, the weed. That small thing it's become too much for me. I cannot be able to handle it. And accepting that. And then now reaching out, whether it's family, whether it's a friend, they can be able to connect you to the right people to get you the help. Also here as Eden Village, we are open. And the other Eden facilities to be able to help them to get the help that they need. And also be ready to just shut down the world for a while, because our program is about 3 months, and just come and deal with yourself, deal with everything that you faced. I feel like one of the issues that people in this challenge of substance use dependence struggle with is now being away from the alcohol, away from that lifestyle, and facing the consequences of what has happened. That can also be overwhelming. But it is a process that they don't go through it alone. We are there to help them overcome the challenges. And the family also comes along. Sometimes they wonder, will I ever be accepted? My family, they've thrown me away. They will come through. The challenge is always the fact that you say sorry, and you're not able to stop. But they don't know that they're not able to stop. Both parties don't know they're not able to stop. So we also incorporate the family and help them to understand what substance use dependencies or alcoholism or addiction, and then now help them to work through the coping skills and the things that they're going to need, relapse prevention, and a proper aftercare program from there. So Nawal and Graham are living testimonies that it is doable despite the challenges that they've gone through, and they're here to give a testimony that it is doable. Come, we'll help.
Thank you so much for coming, guys. Thank you so much for sharing your stories and all the insights that you have shared. Back at home, thank you so much for watching. Whoever is watching and maybe you are in the process to start recovery or you're thinking about it, please go for it. Our guests here are a testimony that it's doable. And the other side, it's much better and much fun than the other side. Well, thank you so much for watching. This has been The Corner. I'm your host, Yvonne Kadzo. See you next time, same place, same time.
Fresh, insightful, and in-depth stories from current affairs, opinion, inspiration, lifestyle, church-related articles, and so much more on www.familynews.today. Insights at your fingertips.